A very good morning and good evening and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know where it is that you're tuned on to the live Signatures radio, and I don't know what time it is you're listening to it. I'm recording in 2024. You might be listening this in 2024, maybe another year, whatever the case it is. This is a daily show on the subjects of purpose, productivity, and resilience. This show has been online for over 4 years, and it's going to continue being strong. And even as we continue doing this, actually it's more than 4 years. It's more than 4 years. It's more than 5 years, probably getting into the 6th year. And I think in the year 2024, we're going to get into 2,000 episodes by God's grace. It's a daily show on those subjects of purpose, productivity, and resilience. Right now, we are in the middle of a series. We're talking about rebuilding a lost reputation. We've already done 2 ways you can be able to do it. We are on the 3rd way you can be able to rebuild a reputation. And so let's continue doing the same. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Life Signatures podcast with Lawrence Namale. Lawrence is a life coach, author, and keynote speaker who loves to tackle different topics on purpose, productivity, and resilience. His mission in life is to awaken all your boundless possibilities available in you. Life Signatures podcast is dedicated to bring to reality every single person who knows that deep down in their gut, there's got to be more to life than this. And now, here is your host, Lawrence Namale.
If for one reason or another you're having a spoiled reputation, a dented reputation, a blighted reputation, there is an idea that you can be able to recover that and rebuild that ruined reputation. And there are several things that you can be able to do it. We're talking about 7 ways, and the first way is to acknowledge the mess. The second way is to go back to where things fell apart. That is what we call ground zero. But the third thing we're talking about is to rebuild that reputation. How do we do this? We put into mind that rebuilding doesn't mean you're going to have the exact reputation you had before the fall. No, it's going to be totally different. So stop being hell-bent on, let go of that past reputation and the semblance of it. Start rebuilding a new one. But even as you're rebuilding a new one, there is a benefit of doing it with what you already had as a foundation, what you fell from, and now the new thing that you're trying to do. It's a big benefit. That's why we said in the episode yesterday, it's going to take you less time to rebuild than it did take you to build. Okay? Even though you're not going to go back to the original, it's going to take you less time. So number 1, acknowledge the mess. Number 2, go back to ground zero. Number 3, start rebuilding. If you're rebuilding, take into consideration the following things. Number 1, transparency and vulnerability. You've got to do this that way. Number 2, authenticity. And then number 3, what we talked about yesterday is that if you're rebuilding, you've got to make sure that you're paying the highest price for this. Or at least if it demands for you to pay the highest price, you're not shying away from this. You're doing exactly that. Number 4, this is absolutely important. If you're rebuilding, I'm going to give you one word. And this is a big time, like it's a silver bullet. Consistency. You've got to be consistent. You cannot be caught being staccato with this one. You cannot be caught being, on and off, hot and cold, lukewarm, as far as this is concerned. No. You've got to be consistent with the rebuilding efforts. People forget. Learn from Coca-Cola. There is not a single month, a single year that this drink that has been in circulation for, is it 100 plus years? Hey, it's not failed to at least every year there is a new version. Of course, I don't watch TV these days, but every year there's a new version of a Coke advert. That's consistency. And yet Coke is known. There's a time I had a missionary. You know who a missionary is? The missionary are these people who carry the gospel, the message of Jesus Christ, and they go to people who have never heard about it, and they share that gospel. So there's a time that he was talking about, this missionary was talking about, there's a place where they went. To go to this place, they needed to, hire a boat, and then get a small aircraft, and then another boat, and then bicycles, and then they go on, they go trekking, and they do all that stuff. They're going through a lot of heartache and headache to get to their destination where they were taking the gospel. When they got there, guess what? They found Coca-Cola had already reached there. See, Coca-Cola has been very consistent, and just learn from Coca-Cola. If you're going to build a new reputation, you already have enough information that you've obtained from the past steps that we've talked about, especially going through ground zero. You will know now how to deploy this information so that you're not caught in any inconsistencies between what you've said you're going to represent and what you actually are doing. You've got to be at it like a clock. You've got to keep ticking like a clock, and you've got to stay with it. You cannot say this today and tomorrow you say something totally different. You cannot do this today and tomorrow you do something totally different, especially if you're in the rebuilding phase. Why? Because trust is key here. Trust is never earned with inconsistencies. It's never earned when you say something today and tomorrow you say something totally different. It's never earned when you do something today and tomorrow you do something totally different. The key to building a new reputation is to make sure that you remain authentic and consistent. This is important because people are now hawk-eyed. They are looking, they are scanning, they are waiting. Some of them are waiting. Let me tell you, they are waiting just as a fraction of a second they find that you've done something wrong or something inconsistent with what you're saying or what you're supposed to be doing. They will keep, like a wildfire, spreading the gospel, how funny you are, and you'll find that you're supposed to rebuild and rebuild and rebuild. Let me tell you this, if you're rebuilding, if you've made the decision to rebuild, please do not rush into this and be inconsistent as a result of rushing into this. Organize yourself well, plan your next steps well, and follow through those next steps with utmost unbelievable consistency without fail. If you ever veer off from the path you're supposed to take, my friend, you are doing yourself a great disservice. You would have as well not even started those efforts of rebuilding at all. It is important because people are now hawk-eyed to try and see if you are deviating from your quest to reform. So if you choose the path of authenticity, though, you will be in good hands, your own good hands. Authenticity and being authentic means you're staying connected. You've got to answer yourself this question: why am I rebuilding? Why am I doing the things that I'm doing? We talked about this 2 episodes back. If you are doing this for eyeballs, if you're doing this for PR, if PR is the driving force behind this, you've already lost. If you're doing this for what we call it optics, you have already lost, because optics is a very fickle game to play. With optics, you can easily be inconsistent, because with optics you are swaying from side to side, where the what do you call it, where the waves are going, where the tide is going, that's where you want to go. But the tide is never consistent. the tide is very inconsistent. So as a person who is rebuilding your consistency, as a person who is rebuilding your reputation, the worst you can do is to be inconsistent. So stay consistent with the rebuild. Stay consistent with the activities that you said you're going to take, and stay consistent with them. Otherwise, don't even start rebuilding. Tomorrow we're going to bring to a close the third step. We've been talking about how you can rebuild that reputation right back up. And we've talked about those 4 things. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the 5th. But until then, bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Life Signatures Radio. If you enjoyed today's show, subscribe to Life Signatures Radio on iTunes, Stitcher, or visit our website at lifesignatures.libsyn.com. Life Signatures Radio, fresh, clean, and inspiring.